Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today we are going to talk about listening. This is great stuff, and it can have a huge impact on both your career and your personal life. So let's get started. There are 4 parts that we're going to look at today. We're going to look at active listening. We're going to look at what we call noise, which leads to faulty listening. We're going to look at some different types of listening, and we're going to look at some general personal styles that we all drift toward in one situation or another. So interestingly enough, I did an Indeed search, the job website Indeed, just in San Diego, and I searched for listening skills, and 622 job listings popped up that were posted in the last month. That's 622 different jobs that said they want their potential employees to have listening skills. We're also going to talk about active listening. So I searched for that too. And just for the term active listening skills in San Diego, for the last month, we got 143 job listings that from employers that specifically said they want these skills. So it's in really high demand. So let's start off by looking at what is active listening. We hear it all the time, active listening, active listening. Like literally though, what do we mean? Well, we need to differentiate between hearing and listening. Hearing is the process your body goes through where you absorb sound waves that travel through the air, and then your ear and your mind, take them in so that you can absorb these external stimuli. Listening is the process or act of reconstructing another person's experience in your mind. Like our previous discussions where we talked about symbolic reconstruction, you're going to hear that type of thing a lot. We're going to talk about trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes. So what is exactly active listening? Well, when we are fully concentrating on what is being said versus just like passively hearing a speaker, that's generally what we consider active listening. So what do we really mean by it? Well, we're generally paying attention to the message itself, the message intent, and the sender's thoughts and emotions as well as their lived experience. So all kinds of stuff can get in the way when we're trying to listen to the message, what the person is telling us, when we're trying to figure out what's the real intent, like what do they actually, like why are they telling us this, and like what is their motivation for telling us, what is going on in their world, in their little mind that they feel this information is important enough and they're trying to express it in a certain way, XYZ way, right? So a whole bunch of stuff can get in the way, unfortunately, to active listening. And the biggest one, we heard about this in our very first conversation when we talked about noise. It's a very creative term that we use for basically anything that gets in the way of a message. And there's some pretty easy things to understand that can qualify as noise. Like message overload, just getting too many messages or getting too many details in the message. Rapid thought, as in our rapid thought. We're trying to listen to it so much, we're trying to figure it out so much, we don't take a moment to actually just let the person talk and absorb their message. There's psychological noise, which is often when we're thinking about ourselves. This happens all the time. And it's nothing you should feel bad about if you do. The human mind can think about 10 times faster than it can listen. It can think 10 times faster than it can listen. It can think 100 times faster than it can talk. So if you've ever been in a situation where you're really into what this person's saying, your mind's wandering anyway, that's why. There's physical noise. That's loud stuff. That is the technical term, by the way. Thank you very much. Loud stuff. Like, take your loud thing of choice and place it in there. Then we have faulty assumptions. And we also touched on this before when we were talking about language regarding reconstructing a symbol's meaning. Like, we're assuming we understand what this person means by that word, but we don't know if we really do. But there's other stuff that gets in the way of active listening. We all fall victim to faulty listening habits. And as much as we may or may not want to admit it, we all do all of these things. There's pseudo-listening. That's when you're kind of pretending to listen and you're giving answers like, yeah, okay, yeah, no, like whatever, right? We've got those, we've sent those, we know when it's happening to us. We don't like it very much. There's selective listening, where a person is listening only to the parts of the message that interests them. Clearly, they're going to lose the other person's experience. There's defensive listening, which we also call ambushing, when we're just listening to a person's message just enough so that we can find something to turn on them and attack, right? We typically do this when we're in an argument or we're trying to be in an argument. It is one of the fastest ways to really block and break down a communication channel. We also have insensitive listening, like when you're just listening to something at face value, like when a person is trying to discuss an issue with you and they're using an example for a larger situation, but you just focus on that little example because you really don't want to hear it anyway and you just want to move on. Insensitive listening. And then, of course, we have self-centered listening, which you can sometimes hear described as conversation domination. That one's my favorite. When you're talking to someone and they're doing all the talking, you can't get a word in edgewise. That's self-centered. They're just thinking about themselves and their lived experience. So, how do we avoid problems? Fortunately, we have some relatively easy techniques to employ. Perception checking. That's not the first time we've heard this in this video series, and for good reason. Perception checking is fantastic. That's generally when we're paraphrasing and we're questioning. We say things like, so I'm hearing you say, XYZ, is that right? I'm hearing you say you don't mind when I'm late most of the time, but when it's because we're going out to eat dinner, that really gets to you. Is that about right? Is that what I'm hearing? It can do wonders. There's also motivation checking. And this one, you do inside yourself. And you generally ask yourself, am I trying to understand and support another person, or am I trying to have them and understand and support me, right? Because sometimes, some conversations, both of these things are happening at the same time. But usually, especially when our conversation partner or partners is talking, like which part of the process are we involved in? Am I sharing my experience, or am I trying to fully absorb the other person's experience? So those are some easy ways to keep in mind to avoid problems. And we should probably take a look at a couple types of listening. So most people tend to gravitate to one of 4 different styles of listening. The important part here is that a competent communicator can have a variety of styles, regardless of what you naturally seem to gravitate to. And all of this takes practice. None of these styles are better than others. So let's take a look at some of them. We have content-orientated listening, like we're focusing on the quality of the content of the message. We're seeking details. We become good at analyzing from various perspectives. There's a lot of jobs out there that are generally analysts or managers, and many of you are going to wind up in one of those roles, if not for the majority of, but at least some point of your career. Managers and analysts do a lot of content listening. There's also people-oriented listening. These tend to be the people on the team that are sort of the glue that holds the team together. They're more concerned with creating and maintaining positive relationships than they really are on the details of an idea or how it's going to be employed. They're more concerned with, making everybody feel as though they want to be on this team. These are fantastic people to have on your team. And when you're a manager, it'd be good to have one or two of these hired onto your team when you go looking to hire people. We also have action-oriented listening, which is just like it sounds. You're interested in accomplishing the task at hand. Let's take action, right? This one tends to be the one that I gravitate toward. And there's also time-oriented listening, where a person is primarily concerned with the time it takes to accomplish a task at hand. And one of the easy ways to remember action-oriented listening and time-oriented listening is to think of someone on a sports team, like a team sport, or folks in the military. They're often concerned, both demographics, with what action are we going to take, how long is it going to take it, right? So the 4 personal listening styles: content-oriented, people-oriented, action-oriented, and time-oriented. And there's 3 major types of listening. Again, the goal is to have a variety of styles. So the first one is informational listening, where generally the goal is to understand another person's ideas, right? Makes a ton of sense. When we take an active approach, like an active listening approach to understanding a person's ideas, this can involve, asking clarifying questions, just like the example before. So I'm hearing you say this. Is that correct? Or you could have someone is giving you a lot of detail. So can you tell me, can we look at this particular situation from this angle? Would that still give us the same result? We employ a lot of paraphrasing in informational listening. There's also critical listening. This is something that we do a lot, or hopefully we do a lot in class, when the goal is to judge the quality of ideas. We're trying to get the correct understanding before really judging whether or not we're interested, right? Whether or not we think this is a good idea. Whether or not we think this, as a student, whether or not we think this is something we really need to invest time in, or should we put more time to another part of a project or a class. And we also have supportive listening, which is exactly what it sounds like. When we're trying to support another person, these responses are usually empathy focused, and they might also include things like advising, analyzing, comforting, reflecting. And the big one with supportive listening, and I failed this one. I'm not shy to admit, I am not huge on asking people if they want my help or my opinion. So when someone's sharing some information with me, especially if it's really important and dear to their heart, I've got myself into the habit, like, make sure to ask, make sure to ask, make sure to ask. Don't just tell them what you think, make sure to ask. And when I say the words like, do you want my opinion? Are you asking for my help? It almost invariably comes across well to the listener, to the speaker, and they tend to appreciate it. And then if they say yes, please, which is usually the case, then we can go into the idea of advising, where we give them some advice, right? Judging. We tell them what we think of their situation. Not necessarily judging that person, but judging their particular lived experience in that situation. We can go into analyzing, where we analyze the different parts. Well, this part sounded like it might be beneficial, but I don't know if that part sounds very beneficial. There's questioning, where we try to dig down deeper. Do you think this other person that you were talking to could have had XYZ motivation? Questioning. There's comforting, which is exactly as it sounds, especially when a person is angry or sad. Oftentimes they want a little comforting. They're like, "Oh yeah, that is really that's horrible. I'm really sorry to hear that happened to you. I would be upset too." Right? We're connecting with their emotions, with their empathy. There's prompting, where oh wow, tell me more about that. People love it when you ask them to tell you more about whatever it is they're telling you, especially if it's important to them or important, if it's near to their heart. And then, of course, there's reflecting. So what I'm hearing you say is this was a tough situation and you were pretty mad. That's what reflecting looks like. It's like holding a mirror up to your conversation partner so they can see how it's coming across to other people. And most often, my experience, when I say something like, "Wow, I'm hearing that sounds pretty tough. You must have been pretty mad." Almost invariably, the conversation partner is like, "Yeah, I was mad. Thank you." Right? Reflecting. It can be a huge tool in your listening toolbox. So I came across this graph while I was researching some things a while ago. What do students usually think about during a lecture? Not what they think of the lecture, but what they think about. And I think it's pretty funny, right? These are all of the things, all of the types of noise that can get in the way when you're trying to listen to this video with a talkative guy talking about listening. The first one on our left is erotic thoughts. Yeah, especially the younger demographic. That stuff floats through your mind a lot. You're reminiscing about different things that have already happened. You're worrying or thinking about things like lunch. I know when I was a student, I fall into worrying all the time. It's still kind of difficult for me. I like to be a successful person. I want to do well at my project, and I'm worrying all the time. Having religious thoughts. I like to let my mind wander on philosophical, could be this way, could be that way. How can I be a great person, right? There's listening to lecture, which is nice. That's all the way up to like 20% of the students in the room watching this video right now are actually listening to a lecture. That's fantastic. But it turns out, as you see in the last bar on the right, only about 12% of people can actually recall the lecture, can actually remember what was talked about. So, how do we do a better job at recalling? We try to improve our note-taking skills. This is a huge skill to develop at school and at work. It is fantastic. Your work lives are usually going to involve a lot of meetings, multiple times a week, and it's not always easy to remember what happened in what meeting. So, first things first to think about. Sometimes you can bring a laptop to a meeting, and sometimes you can't. So please, as you're going through school, try to get used to taking notes on a computer and taking notes by hand. Just trust me, I've been in the professional world for a long time, and in some of the most high-tech, progressive, fast-paced environments, you're not allowed to open your laptop because the people in the room know that other people won't be listening. So what do we do? What do we checklist to run down to see whether or not we want to take notes? We can start by asking, am I prepared? Right? Do I know what this meeting is going to be about? Am I leading it, or am I just fully versed in it? Asking flat out, do I need to take notes, or is this just a meeting where I'm only sitting there to get a general idea of what this team's doing? What type of notes do I need to take? Am I going to be taking notes to get every detail of their plan? Am I going to be taking notes to see where I could find a potential problem with their plan? What type of notes? And are the notes I'm taking meaningful? Am I going to be able to come back to them in a week and tell what happened in that meeting? That last one, in my experience, is a learned skill. It's not always easy to do. And that's why we need to learn how to take notes on a computer and written by hand as soon as we can, so that we learn our own particular note style. I think you can tell probably from this presentation, I like bullet points, but not everybody does. So what do we talk about here today? Mostly we talked about trying to become better active listeners. That's when we're fully concentrating on the other person's lived experience. It's a super valuable skill in both your work and personal lives. We talked about active listening. We talked about noise and that all the things that can get in the way and create faulty listening. We talked about the different types of listening, and we talked about the personal styles of listening. Thanks for your time.